Hello, I'm Renee Barabo, the Practical Shaman.
Hi, and I'm Sandra Ingerman. Welcome to the Shaman's Cave. I think Renee and I were both waiting for each other to
We usually say, "Oh, you start." Oh, no, you start. It was like,
we,
well, I
ac-
guess, I guess we'll both start.
we actually do no preparation for this show except who's going to start first.
We should. I don't know if we should tell them that because we sound so brilliant sometimes.
That's right.
Um, in fact, we're starting to look for snippets like that. Like little 2-minute snippets of where we were exceptionally wise and wise women. But today's show came about because last night I had a dream, and in this dream I was put on this robe, and in the robe it was it was this white robe, and it had all kinds of jewels on it. And when I went up to, like, I kind of believe the guru's dead, so it was like, but I went up to this person who was doing this blessing, and they said, "Oh, you deserve this robe. You're living, you're embodying a life of service. You're embodying that." And I was thinking that, Sami, I was thinking that in that moment, like, what does that mean to be embodying a life of service? How am I embodying this service? How do I show up? Because in my daytime reality, I'm feeling like there was something came up yesterday about somebody asking if somebody had their vaccination. And it's just like, I'm just so tired of the questions and the judgments, and like, how am I showing up of service when so much of the conflict in the world is exhausting me? Because I'm a Libra. I like my scales balanced, and I thought we got through some times and we'd be more in balance, and we're still not.
Yeah, well, I actually think you said the key of what we really need to be looking at in this show is exhaustion. People are exhausted, they're worn down. And if you've been watching the Shaman's Cave over the years, Renee and I have done multiple shows on the power of dismemberment as a shamanic initiation, of where the ego and the body become so worn down in an initiation, in old shamanic cultures, having to walk over glass, or fire walking, or having nails put in you, or being buried for 3 days, or having ants being covered with honey, and then red ants being put on you for 3 days. And these were some of the milder initiations. It was to wear you down until there was nothing left but your spirit, nothing left but your spirit. And it's the spirit that has the strength to get you through. And so, what's happening right now is people are exhausted, and this is so positive. I know it doesn't feel good. I understand the level of exhaustion that people are dealing with. I'm hearing from many of you around it, and I'm in the same place. I do very little, not because I'm afraid to go out, but because I need an amazing amount of just staring time, just to regenerate a bit. And so it's just really important to understand that the wearing down is one of the most important parts of the process before some healing can happen. So we're actually in a good place. It's just how we're reacting to that exhaustion. That's what the problem is. Instead of being a positive force in the world, which we can talk about, um, we're acting like a child who needs a nap, and starts to, we're restless because we're so tired and we don't know what to do, so we're fighting.
Yeah, I agree. And like when I just tend to my own world, in a certain way, because, as a teacher, you show up for like the group. Like I have an advanced group of the Windwalkers. And the other day when I showed up, I'm there like, okay, I'm not all prepared. I'm not all this. I'm not all that. But I'm going to show up real. I'm going to show up and say, boy, this is exhausting. What have you share? We're going to sit in a council and share, instead of somebody like teaching you one more thing or and embodying one more aspect of myself. But how do I show up and hold a circle together?
Yeah. Yeah, that's really important because it's all about being a good teacher is about knowing how to hold space. Being a good friend is about knowing how to hold space. Being a positive force in the world is about knowing how to hold space. So, as everybody is aware, I write a monthly column called the Transmutation News, and I've written it for 20 years. And over the 20 years, I've looped certain subjects because, you can only imagine, even I run out of words. And so, I have months where I'll talk about the same topic because I'm waiting for a new download to come through. And years ago, all my columns were about holding space. The planet was going through something terrible, a war. I don't even, we've been going through so many traumas that I've lost track of which particular trauma this one was. And I kept talking to everybody about what we can do is hold space, because when somebody's completely freaking out and somebody's there calm and holding space energetically or physically, it really makes a difference of what the final outcome is going to be. And then in my life, I've been through, I know everybody's been going through their own initiations through their own lives, but my most recent initiation, which has been one of my hardest initiations, has been 6.5 years. So as of this point, and so I'm a little bit farther ahead of some of you, and I can see where the wearing down starts to take you to on a positive side. And so on a positive side, I've always been, how I got myself into trouble is I love people way too much and I want to help everybody. And, I thought I was a helping spirit who could help everybody, and I was just a human who got blown out of the water from trying to help too many people. So I'm not saying that I've not been soft, but I'm finding a different kind of softening happening where when I get upset at somebody or at the news or something, I immediately can just send love. I can immediately just send love. I don't have to think about it. There's no shoulds. You shouldn't be thinking like this. I don't have the energy to do anything but send love. I don't have the energy to judge. It takes energy to judge. And think about it. If you're really tired, notice how much energy it takes when you move into a negative space.
It really does. I remember when Sandra and I started, communicating about the podcast, she'd write these like chapters of emails, and I'd write back, Oh, that sounds good. I was like, and she said, like, wow, you're a woman of like a few words in your emails. And so now she'll just send a rose. And they're like, yeah, see, it's so much less energy than to write a whole big paragraph. And I really think, I mean, that's like a way where you've really learned, how to like, oh, because you gave so much of yourself all your life. And I honor that in you. And because I give myself in so many areas, what you do, but the full-time job and that one over there and this, it's like, okay, I've always been really direct and really one-liners. I've had to learn how to add, "Dear Sandra, how are you today?" to the email. And I still probably don't get it right half the time.
Well, now I love it, and now I've asked people, not people I work with like Renee, but people who are trying to contact me. I've asked people. I've actually gone off email and social media, in this process of regeneration. It's the best thing I've done for myself.
Hmm.
I'm starting to feel myself again. I'm starting to feel human again. It feels really good. And so setting boundaries is a part of being in service. To tie it into what, Renee, what you wanted to talk about. Because if you're not taking care of yourself, you're ending up, and we did a show on this recently, you're ending up being a weak link,
Hmm.
um, in the collective, because you're too worn down, you're too tired to be able to join in with the rest of the community that's working. If you
Hmm.
have to be dragged along, that's not being in service.
No, I always call that the hate fuck. It's when you do it and you're hating the person when you're doing it. You know what I mean? It's just like, I actually canceled a couple of interviews this week because I didn't have the capacity to hold that space to give a really, present interview with somebody else when the water was still an issue and, there were still finishing touches. And one of the things that I've learned that I can be a positive force is, and I don't have to explain myself.
Hmm.
Period. I can't do this. And that's where the period comes in. It doesn't, because usually after that it's a lie, because I'm going to make up a whole other set of circumstances that you might like better. And I think that the being able to be of service, and I know that I show up a lot for a lot of people in the world. So I want to have that same quality of showing up for myself that I do in every other area of my life. And, at work, mental health day, you know, that's what it is today. And I used to have a boss who'd say, "Oh, today's the Renee go in the office and close the door day." And
Yeah,
she was younger than me. She just knew like that they're like that. What happens is I'm such a creator. I'll create and create and create, and then I'll hit a wall.
right. Yeah,
And I think the hitting the wall is that part of the dissolution you're talking about, like, like a tree when it starts to decay, there's that decay process is the part of like what's going on now in society that we don't like. Because who wants a decaying tree out in the yard? You want a nice tree with nice branches, but how do you honor the decay and the dissolution and the exhaustion that it's exhausting when you think, okay, we're going to have a nice service for something, and no, people are not getting along because some people didn't get their shots and other people didn't, and it's just like, it's, it's, it, it's really hard to keep showing up in service of the light when no one's doing what you want.
right, right. Yeah, and the thing too is that, people are being so easily influenced by others right now, instead of, following their own intuition. And we did a show on how to engage your intuition, because this is a very tricky time. This is the time that I call in the dark night of the soul. It's the time of the tricksters coming out of every corner. come here, little girl, I have this for you. I can help you with this. Oh, I can help you with this. I can help you with this. And we're being so influenced by everything in the outside, and we've stopped listening to ourselves. And besides my level of exhaustion, of why I went off social media and email, um, the other thing was I found that I couldn't hear myself anymore. Because I have such a strong intuition and I trusted 100%. And I was finding I couldn't hear myself anymore. And since I've gotten off of email and social media, I'm hearing myself again and I'm talking a mile a minute and telling myself everything I missed, all the advice I missed hearing from myself because I was trying to listen to others. Being in service means many things. If you're not listening to yourself and your own gift of why you're here and what you have to share in your community, are you being in service?
Mhm.
What boundaries do you have to set? Like Renee had to set some boundaries this week.
Yeah, lots of boundaries this week. And also, to be in service and like holding, this has been really new, and many of you might not know this, but this was the first year that I did a 10-month apprenticeship program, and applications for next year are available. That's my little sales pitch. But it's a different thing when you're holding space for 10 months, like being of service to a group. And one of the things that you can see is that that it's not in your time. Might be in your space, but it's not in your time, and it's not your job to heal somebody else. It's their job. You can hold the container, you can hold the space, and it's their job to have their dynamic relationship with their own creator to find their way through. And that's a really important lesson to learn when you're holding space for other people. Like recently, I have a coaching client come back. Literally, she sent her children, her neighbors, everybody else. I've been waiting for her for 10 years. And finally, she's here. And it's really exciting because she's showing up every week for herself. And, and sometimes it takes 10 years. Sometimes it takes a whole lifetime. We don't know. But I can tell you this, if I'm trying to push somebody else's agenda, there's nothing that's going to exhaust me faster.
Right. Yeah, and it is a time where people are, there's always going to be people out there who are going to try and talk you into doing something that isn't right for you. And unlike Renee and other teachers who I really respect, I have deep respect for teachers like Renee and others that I know who just know how to say the word no. Because I've turned down 3 or 4 talks recently, and I got so much. It was unbelievable what came back at me. And I said, I'm sick, and I still got flack. It's like, it doesn't matter.
Right. Oh, but if you feel just a little bit better, you could write that intro to my book or whatever. No is the end of the sentence. No is the sentence. And I don't know where we've gotten to this place in our world that we have to feel like we need to defend our no's.
Right. I know. And
it's not no, but.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm looking at right now. Why do I have to defend my no? Why do I have to go through all my dramas, But I studied with Angelise Arian. I studied Tarot with Angelise Arian, and she had a great line. She talked about every time you say yes to somebody else, but you meant a no, you just said yes to them and no to you.
Mm.
So she said, when you say a yes, make sure you're saying yes to them and make sure you're saying yes to yourself. Um, and I think about that because she said the yes no coin has two sides to it.
Hmm.
Um, and every time you say yes to somebody else, if you're saying no to yourself, that's not good. So
No, but on that, I agree with that totally. But on that note, there's a there's a place where when you're in service that you have to ask whether it's a self-serving yes or no too. And I think you'll know what I mean. Like, whereas like if somebody came to me because like a friend of mine from high school came to me because she was afraid of dying. Now, I have an agreement with Spirit that if close people come to me who are dying, that it's my work to be there. And that doesn't mean I have to be, that I have parameters about that. But sometimes we just have to look about whether we're being selfish, self-serving, or of service, because sometimes healing other people is a very selfish act. Oh, that felt really good, even though you have not enough energy to get out of bed the next day, So we have to learn the difference between these ideas. And being of service, I know the difference of being of service is when I'm of service, there's never a refill. There's never a resentment afterwards. It usually recharges me in some way that I was able to be there in a giving way. And sometimes it's a little bit deceiving when I'm doing it to be self-serving because, the high might be there, but it doesn't last.
right. Yeah, it's a real time on the planet where we really have to look at boundaries. And if you look at, what are the popular summits that are out there right now for helping people on emotional levels, there's all these summits on the vagus nerve and on the nervous system, but there are also all these summits on setting boundaries, because the reason people are so stressed out right now is that we are a culture of really poor boundaries.
Mm-hmm. Did you see the movie with Glenn Close about 4 Good Days? It's on Amazon Prime, but there's a whole part about boundary setting, being of service. And it was a really incredible movie on a mother and daughter relationship with drug addiction, because, mothers and the whole thing with addiction, I work in the field of addiction. I don't know if people know that or not, but there's it's like one time a good friend of mine who hasn't been able to get the sobriety part of their life. And I used to judge, I must be better than you. But then one time I realized that sometimes we deny people of the dignity of their bottoms when we step in repeatedly, and we're not being of service. So there's so many nuances to this subject and this talk. I mean, we could go on all day long about it, but again, if you want to share in the comments, what does being of service look like for you? What is the limits of that service? And how do you know when you're being self-serving and not a servant of humanity?
Oh, I love those questions. Those are really perfect, powerful questions. Even if you don't want to write on the wall, these are questions that you should be reflecting on, and also see if you can get into the habit. Try little experiments when you get into a place of hate or judgment, and saying, I'm just going to choose to send love into this situation right now and just let it go. Just be. But the questions that Renee just brought, I think are brilliant.
Thank you. I'll puff up with that a little bit and make sure. And if you're just joining us, make sure you follow us at Shamans Cave and over at shamanstv.com. You can sign up for our weekly newsletter. And from that, you can learn about some of the upcoming fall classes that I have and that Sandra has. And we don't, that list we only mail out every Wednesday with the new show as we drop them. And we hope that you join us and that you take the time to, you are servants if you're watching the show. I can just about say probably 99% of the 99% are here to be of service in this transformation of the planet. And so saying no and doing these exercises and really sending love and light back out to the world when you want to send anger and hate is a really important thing, Sandra. So I applaud you all for being here today.
Blessings, everyone. Thanks for the good work that you're doing. No matter what you're going through right now, you're on a journey that's unique for you. So honor yourself and give gratitude to you for the strength that you've actually made it through so far. And we'll be here with you on the journey. We're all walking together.